Well, we are mic'd up today with Jay Walker, the voice of Raging Cajun Athletics. Jay, we appreciate you sitting down with us. I know it's been a tough 24 hours. I mean, you were with Robe for all 25 seasons of baseball.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, my first 2 seasons were with Mike Bollinger, the previous head coach, and then my 3rd year is when Robe came on, and yeah, we were very good friends and had a great professional relationship as well because Tony was such a pro. And yeah, the last day or so has been pretty difficult for a lot of us.
I know you probably have so many great memories with Robe. Is there one that really just jumps off the page?
You know, it's just, I think, I don't know if it's any particular instance, but it was his consistency. You know, Tony was the most principled human being I have ever known. Forget a baseball and coaching, okay? I've never met a man with higher principles than Tony. And they were non-negotiable, always non-negotiable. And the way that he lived his life and raised his children and the relationship that he had with Colleen, you know, if you ever wanted a primer as to how to do it, all you had to do was follow him around a little bit. And that's what I'm taking from this is the integrity and the high principles that he lived with, but demanded of his players and his children. And because of that, you know, as years go by and we remember Tony, that's what we're going to remember more than 1,100 and something wins. Although the 1,100 and something wins are okay too.
He won a lot of baseball games, as Seth said last night. You know, haven't got heck of a ball coach. Is there a great baseball memory that pops? The College World Series?
Well, yes, but here's the part about the College World Series that makes it the memory. At the time, the university didn't have much money. They funded for spring sports. They funded coaches' salaries and scholarships. Tony had to go and raise everything else. He had no travel budget. He had no equipment budget. He had nothing. He had to go out and raise the money just so they could get through the season because the university only paid his salary and the scholarships. The fact that they made it to the College World Series in 2000 with that kind of financial strapping, first of all, not many people know that. And secondly, if you do know that, then it becomes just one of the greatest stories probably in the history of this university. But Tony never complained. He never talked about it. You know, he said to me one time, he said, "This was the deal when I took this job. This is what I agreed to. So, you know, let's quit crying and let's go do what we got to do." And that's the way he was all the time.
You know, Robe was obviously graceful in victory, but I was always impressed by how he was in defeat. And I think the moment last year at the Sun Belt Tournament, when one of the very first things he told us was, look, I told the guys, you know, you're not judged by how you win or how you lose or how you run the first base, but who you are as a man. And, you know, that's my favorite Robeism. I'm sure you've got a favorite.
Tony, we were in the midst of a losing streak, and I don't remember what year it was because sometimes they all run together. But I would go down on the field to interview him after the game, and he would finish talking to the team. He would come over, and the first thing that we would do is we would shake hands, and then, you know, we would talk. And you're right, Tony handled himself post-game professionally as well as anyone. If he was upset or angry, he didn't let you know it. But there was one game where the team wasn't playing well, and it might have been 2003 because they got off to a terrible start that year. And he walked up, and I stuck my hand out, and he shook his head. And I looked at him and he said, "Right now, my hand's not worth shaking," because the team wasn't winning. And the team lost, and then the next day refused to shake my hand again, and then refused to shake my hand again until the losing streak was broken. And then he would shake my hand, and I said, "Tony, your hand's always worth shaking." And he said, "Not to me, not right now." He gave credit to the players for every victory that he had in his career. He took every loss and put it on his own shoulders. That's what good coaches do.
Good coach, I mean, is an understatement. Good person, good human being. And I think that really showed up in the way people have responded to his death. And I think the outpouring of support from coaches everywhere has just been so impressive. He made such an impact on so many.
I'm reading social media, reading Twitter, and I'm seeing messages from schools in the Southeastern Conference, schools in the Atlantic Coast Conference, schools in the Big Ten Conference. Everybody in the coaching community, everybody in college athletics knew who Tony Robichaux was. USA Today has done a very nice story online. CNN's done a great story online. We're sitting here in Lafayette, Louisiana, and we were also very close to Tony, but this is a national story, and I think everybody's starting to realize that now. What I loved, we did 3 hours on the radio yesterday and read, 7,500 tweets from former players. Not one of them talked about baseball. Not a single one talked about baseball. They wanted to talk about the impact he had on them as young men.
Yeah, the idea that he helped so many, and Jonathan Lucroy was very personal about, he helped so many. I was one of those. Is there a great example, you think, of a person Tony really touched that maybe is truly the person that they would have been in a total different path had they not gone through Tony?
I don't know if he would have been on a totally different path, but the first name that comes to mind is Justin Gabriel. Justin Gabriel pitched on the 2000 World Series team, had a misstep after his junior season, and Tony suspended him from the team for 1 year. Now, 1 year is a pretty long suspension. He had to go sit in the stands and watch his teammates. He had to pick up trash. He had to maintain a certain GPA. He had a curfew every night. And Tony listed all of these things and said, if you do all of these things, you will have the opportunity to earn your way back onto the team. So this was just to earn his way back onto the team. And unlike some other players that have run into this, he did it. He served out the suspension. He came back the next year, was an all-conference pitcher, and I know that he became a better person because of what Tony asked him to do, because in Tony's words, he brought personal shame upon the program with the misstep that he had. But he came back, was welcomed back with open arms by the fans. You know how the fans are. And Tony has said many, many times that he believes in second chances. And he gave Justin Gabriel a second chance. And Justin Gabriel now is out, I think, in Washington State. But he's coaching teenage boys in the game of baseball. And I'm sure he's also coaching them in the game of life. I have a lot of respect for that young man.
Yeah, Coach definitely taught people how to be just better people, better men. Jan Williams, anyone we've talked to just continues to reiterate that. I know Seth shared a great who Tony moment is. When Seth told us a story last night about how he thanked the people cleaning up the stadium, the prison workers who cleaned up the stadium. Is there a moment like that sticks out to you?
Tony, Kevin Foote wrote an article that's online right now with The Advocate. After the College World Series, someone asked him if he'd put on a clinic. And so he did. For about 3.5, 4 hours, he came out, and this was over in Crowley, I believe, and his son Austin was very young at the time. And after it was over with, they looked, and Tony and Austin were picking up trash on the side of the road because they wanted to leave it better than what they found. And Tony used the term servant leadership more than once. I think he epitomized servant leadership. He was willing to be, talking from a spiritual standpoint, he was willing to be the one who would go and wash someone's feet.
He certainly left Louisiana baseball better than he found it.
His dad, that was something he got from his dad. He said, always leave it better than you found it. Tony wasn't done yet. The ballpark got built. He had one more project, and that was the new clubhouse / hitting facility that they had started raising money for. I think that it would be a wonderful testament to him to have a group of people pick up that ball and get that done and get that clubhouse built. There was the one thing that was undone, and he wasn't going to voluntarily leave until that project was completed.
Tony always trying to leave that shade tree he talked about.
Amen. Amen to that.
Jay, I know it's been an emotional few days. I appreciate you talking with us.
Thanks so much, Andrew. I appreciate you. Thanks much.
Thanks, Jay.